Welcome to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Chris Schaefer, and today I'm answering questions. You guys have delivered some of my favorite questions. Really thoughtful, amazing questions, and I'm literally going to move faster than maybe I've ever moved before and get straight into it. So if you want to learn more about Google Ads, this is the episode for you. We're going to hit a lot of topics. Let's go straight into it. I'm not even going to do my ad read. I'm going to talk about Optio in a minute. But first, let's get into the first question. Coming from Adrian. And it says, "Hello, Chris. This is Adrian from Slovakia. I hope you're doing well, and thanks for all the episodes and knowledge you put out there. I have a question for you. When using manual CPC, do you ever turn on the enhanced CPC option, even if there are no conversion data information? What is your experience with it? By the way, you said you moved to another state from Texas, but you didn't tell us where." Oh, I definitely didn't move. I'm still in Texas, but I did have vacation outside of Texas, and it was New Mexico. Actually, is the place. Just upsetting. Just as I said, really upsetting how beautiful it is, and the weather. It was cool in the evening, warm in the day. Just really upsetting. I don't want to talk about it. Why'd you bring it up? I'm upset. Let's get to your question. Thanks for the question. Here's the answer. So I give my opinions on this show. My opinions may not always be the right answer, but they're based on my experience. And my experience with enhanced CPC is I do not turn it on. Even if there is conversion data, I do not turn it on until I'm comfortable with the amount of time and I reach a certain stability in the account. Okay? I'm not going to turn on enhanced CPC because I'm not comfortable with the fact that Google now can just change your bids however they deem that they want to change them. There used to be, years ago, a cap and a bottom for Google to change bids up and down. That's no longer the case. With enhanced CPC turned on, it is now possible for Google to double, triple, whatever they want to do with the bids. I mean, I'm sure that they won't spend $300 a click, but technically it's going to do whatever it's going to do. It makes that decision. And I'm not comfortable with that until I have a steady pacing of conversions and I'm ready to introduce a level of risk. That's what I talk about all the time when it comes to my decisions in Google Ads. It's based on risk. And I consider this option to be risk because there's no solid understanding of exactly how it works, exactly what it does, how it's going to react, how it's going to change things. What isn't risk is me just going in and lowering the bids 50%. Because I want to bid less, and I know what that'll do, and I want to see how the conversions respond, the clicks respond, the positions respond. But with enhanced CPC, using manual bids, I don't know how that's going to affect things. So that's a level of risk I'm not comfortable with until I start to see conversions coming in. I've had weeks or months or years of steady performance. All right, so now we're going to jump over to Greece. Oh, gosh. And, hey, I'm a Google Ads expert. I'm not a name expert or a country expert. I'm going to say names how I read them, and forgive me. Greetings from Greece. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on your amazing podcast. It has been a great help for my evolution as a professional. Well, thank you. Thank you. Glad to help. I have an e-com question that troubles me a lot. Is there a Google Ads companion type that if we create it, we have to create another one to complement the first one? For example, if I create a Performance Max, do I have to create a shopping campaign too? Or if I create a display remarketing, do I also need to create a display dynamic remarketing, and so on? If there are these kinds of campaign pairs, what are they? And let's say we have an unlimited budget for all the above. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to continue your great work. Friendly, yours, Taurus. There we go. I'm going to call it Taurus. I have no idea if that's correct. Thank you so much for the question. I'm going to go through my pairing, and here's my thoughts. Number one, I think that the best pairing, my most obvious pairing, is a display campaign with a search campaign. I think that's a great pairing. We're going to get into more of that question a little bit later. There's someone else who asked a question about remarketing, so I'll save my thoughts for that. But I think remarketing display campaign with a search campaign is a great pairing. I think they complement each other because the search campaign brings in new traffic, and then the remarketing campaign brings in that traffic a second time, or at least reinforces the brand, reinforces and helps to bring up the awareness of the product or the company. I love that. For e-commerce specifically, I think a search campaign and a shopping campaign complement each other very well. Particularly at this balance, I prefer a shopping campaign, and I'm talking about specific, not Performance Max shopping. I actually like standard shopping campaign with a manual bid strategy to begin with, and a search campaign with a manual bid strategy. I think those work well with the balance of probably 70% of my spend goes into my shopping and maybe 30% into my search. Now, I also would add the other connection that since I have a search, I might as well also have a remarketing campaign. So there's kind of a double pair there. I think remarketing matches with a lot of things. Now, if you have a Performance Max, should you create a shopping campaign too? No, that's something you specifically asked about. No, I don't really think that. If I'm going to run Performance Max and I have a shopping feed that I can attach to it, I'm probably going to do the shopping feed with the Performance Max and not a non-shopping feed and a shopping feed Performance Max. I'm probably going to combine those, but honestly, I'm not a big fan of the Performance Max shopping because of the lack of transparency. I've tried it other ways. I'm always open to testing things, and I have seen successful situations, but in general, I'm not a big fan of Performance Max for shopping. Performance Max, anything, really, I'm not a big fan. Not sold on it. I never was, always was kind of a skeptic, still am. Another pairing, this one kind of goes outside the box. I love this question, by the way. This could be a whole episode. Another pairing would be high funnel and a pairing with low funnel. And I talk about this all the time. This is actually phase 4 of Google Ads management that I discussed several episodes ago. Phase 4 is scaling. So a pairing that matches for a scaling process would be a low funnel campaign, phrase match, exact match, very targeted, very specific, very highly qualified traffic. And with that, I have a separate campaign that is broad match, symptom searches, problem searches, how-to kind of searches, where do I kind of searches, very high funnel, cheaper traffic. When I combine these two together, the search low funnel can drive really specific stuff. The high funnel can find me things that I had not thought of before, can bring in some wins. This is a great pairing that I really prefer. So that's still 2 search campaigns, but the pairing of the way that you are targeting is the difference. So there you go. Thanks so much for the question there. And I have a bunch more questions. I'm doing all questions today. I told you I'm jumping in fast. I'm going straight into it. You think other episodes are all meat, no fat? This is an extremely lean episode. Before I jump into the next question, I want to tell you about Opteo. Opteo.com/PSP is the sponsor of this episode and the last 200 episodes. They've been with us a long time, and I cannot tell you. You're going to hear about Opteo in the questions. People mention Opteo. I am not kidding when I say people Find it, try it, and love it, and keep it. It is a standard tool in Google Ads Manager's tool belts. It's skyrocketing to the top of a favorite tool for many people. I was just doing a consulting session with someone last week, and they were like, I can't believe, I hear you talk about it. I can't believe I never tried it. And it just fits so perfect. I just immediately found something that I had missed, and I was so impressed with the way that their software works. I'm telling you, I am not a salesman. I don't sell very well because I tell the truth, and if it's a lie, I can't say it. This is really great. This is a really great product that I have said so many times. The Chris Schaefer name is like tied to Optio at this point. I love it. I love the software. Highly recommend you try it for 2 months free. Use the link at optio.com/PSP to get a 2-month free trial. Okay, we are in our next question. Carlin from Texas, who writes in a lot. Thanks for all your questions, Carlin. He says, can you tell us what specific columns you like to use as a default setup when reviewing search terms? Great question. I'm serious. I freaking love the questions that are coming in. It's such great questions. So here's what I do. You asked, I'm going to tell you exactly what I do. Number one column that I use is keyword. Every single time I review search terms in Google, I have the keyword column pulled up every single time. No question. Always have that. The reason I have that is because I want to see where that search term came from. I want to see the corresponding keyword that triggered that search term. That is important to me because if I see 15 lines of search terms and every single one is the same keyword and I'm just getting tons and tons of variety and close match variant types of stuff on that, which those are default. Match type, added, excluded, those things are all default columns. I'm talking about the ones that you can optionally add. And the first one I add after the mandatory columns is keyword. Next, I have clicks. Next, I have impressions. Next, I have click-through rate. Then average cost per click. Then cost. Those are default. Well, not default. They're default for me. I mean, I just need to know those things. I want to check those things. The next two, I think I really like to see because they tell me a lot about the nature of how hard I'm pushing on that particular search term. And that is impression absolute top percentage and impression top percentage. I like to see those because I want to know, am I showing up 90% absolute top on this keyword? Or am I showing very low? What's my top percentage position on these? How aggressive am I being? And the reason I have those is because there's no such thing as search lost impression share on a search term. So I can't gauge how heavy my foot is on the gas of these search terms. So I look at that to kind of gauge, am I pushing this super hard? Am I pushing this keyword so much that I'm showing in first position 100% of the time? I need to consider that with the fact with, the next column. How many conversions? Right? So I have impression absolute top percentage, impression top percentage, then conversions, then I get into all conversion data. Cost per conversion, conversion rate, conversion value over cost. Now those last two, conversion value and conversion value over cost, those are my defaults. For many lead gen companies, that's going to just be dashes or zeros. There's nothing going to be there. But if you do track conversion value over cost, those are critically important metrics to make sure you have on screen. So that's it. Carlin, great question, because those of you that are not tracking and paying very close attention to your search terms, you don't know where your money's going. And Carlin obviously is, because he not only wants to know about tracking search terms, what should I be particularly paying attention to in these search terms? Great question. So I'm going to pause here and tell you, if you would like to send a question to me, you can go to paidsearchpodcast.com and send a question. Right now, I just have it as an email. You just send an email to me. I don't do anything with the email. I probably won't even respond, but you can just send an email there. They just sit in the inbox and I star them, and then, when the episode comes around, I pull them up and answer those questions. So if you want to get a question to me, that is the way to go. If you want to contact me directly about business or consulting, management, something like that with Google Ads, that's chrisschaefer.com. But if you want to email the show for just interaction on the show, send me a question that way. It's paidsearchpodcast@gmail.com, which you can find at paidsearchpodcast.com. Let's move on now to Sagar. S-A-G-A-R. Sagar? Sounds like I think I did that one right. Hello, Chris. I am a fan of your show. I have a question about whether my search campaign is performing very well. I want to scale it. Love this question. Great question. People have been really wanting to talk about scaling. Phase 4 of Google Ads is scaling. I haven't really dove real deep into that, so I'll do a little bit here. He wants to know, can I duplicate the campaign with the same budget? What would be the best practice according to you? Should I use the same keyword in another campaign, or can I change the bidding strategy? Please share your thoughts on this type of scaling. If you answer the question, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Okay, so what's being asked here is, I don't think you said it directly, but I believe what your question is, how do I scale? And you're asking, is it appropriate for me to scale and test things by duplicating the campaign? Can I change the bidding strategy? Can I duplicate that campaign, change the bidding strategy, and test it in order to scale, to see what a different bidding strategy does? Maybe I can get more traffic, better conversion rates with a different bidding strategy. So, first of all, the answer is no. Do not copy your campaign and run it with a different bidding strategy. Do not run the same keyword. If you want to take 3 keywords and test those and see if you can scale those keywords with a different bidding strategy, do not copy those and run those at the same time that you run another campaign. You should never duplicate traffic in different campaigns. This is the definition of cannibalization in Google Ads. The reason you should not want cannibalization is because it creates complications in your Google Ads account. The reason for that is because each account can only show one impression per auction. That impression, by default, goes to the highest ad rank for that search. That is not always the same keyword. The keywords in campaign A may trigger at a higher ad rank and you get clicks on campaign A. On another auction, it might be campaign B. This is a totally random situation that is determined by Google. Ad ranking is the mysterious I think of the show Lost. You remember the mysterious smoke monster in Lost. We don't really we know something is happening. It just kind of floats around. It's never really completely answered. It's very mysterious. Everyone's kind of scared of it, and it's very, it's always a mystery, trying to discover more. That's basically what quality score and ad rank is. We know it's there. We know it affects things. We can see the effect of it, but you don't understand it, and you don't try and control it. So, if you want to do this properly, just to answer your question, Cigar, if you want to do this properly, what you would do is an experiment. If you want to test a different bidding strategy, you should create an experiment and run that experiment against your original. And when I say create experiment, I am using those words because there is a thing in Google Ads called an experiment. There's an experiment feature. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Watch a YouTube video out there of someone sharing their screen on how to do it. Look up some Google documentation. It's in there. On the left-hand side of your navigation, there is something called experiment. You can create an experiment. That is the proper way of doing an experiment, a test. That's not scaling. If you want to scale, scaling means taking something and trying to maximize the amount of coverage while still maintaining the current returns. So if you want to do that, that might be your bidding strategy. Perhaps target CPA will allow you to do that. And that's absolutely true. I've absolutely successfully scaled campaigns by changing bidding strategy from manual to a target ROAS. Absolutely. I'm thinking of one particular client that I just wrote a report for them today and was just singing praises to myself, as one does when you do a frickin' amazing job and bring in triple the conversions at the same cost for them. I mean, somebody throw me a party. So that's what you do. You throw yourself a party and hope they notice. I absolutely think that is a way to scale, but that's not the only way that you scale. If you want to scale, if you want to know that you can go further, it includes other things. I mean, so I can dive into this deeper in other episodes, but usually scaling involves going past what you're doing now and trying other avenues. That might mean audience targeting, trying some targeted audiences plus some looser keywords. It's broad match. You might do a targeted audience with a broad match keyword. You might try adjustments to geographic targeting to open up geographic targeting but narrow in on other things. You might try opening up your ad schedule to try and bring in more but then lower bids to control risk. These are the type of things that encompass scaling and going further. It is an incremental process. It is not an overnight thing. It is not over a week. It's over months, over years, step by step. Phase 4 of Google Ads management is the longest phase because it's infinite. There is no end to phase 4 of Google Ads management. You always keep scaling, and sometimes you fall back into phase 3 where you're trying to bring up your campaign to the proper goal to hit the proper conversion numbers, and then you go back into phase 4 once you get there. So that's what scaling looks like. There's a hint of kind of what it seems like, but that is a great question. Great question. I appreciate that, and I've got more. I'm scrolling down. I've got like 4 or 5 more questions. So, guys, I'm moving fast, and I'm going to keep going. Long question here. I've edited it a little bit so that it doesn't get lost in the details. But just so you know, Eli, I have read your whole question. He says, "Hey, Chris, big fan of the show. Thank you for all the help and information you've provided to your listeners over the years. Thank you so much." I mean, I don't have to have praise, but as I said, everyone loves a little party for themselves. Thanks for the party. He says he has a question. He says, "I work for an agency, and we have this one client, which is a real estate management company." Oh, boy. Been there. That's a tough one. That company has several apartment communities in their local area. What he goes through here is discussing how they really have a lot of tracking complexity. They want to know that they generate this, and they generate this, and they generate this. Lots of different tracking parameters and things like that they need to do. So there's a complex situation happening here. And Eli goes on to say, "Since we still have auto tagging enabled, I'm noticing that a lot of our UTM tagging is being disregarded due to the auto tagging feature on Google Ads. In this instance, would you suggest that we turn auto tagging off in Google Ads?" I've read different things about the impacts, and I'm not sure if that is the best solution. However, if the goal is to use UTMs, manual UTMs, we have in our campaign, I don't really see it any other way. Do you have any thoughts or recommendations on how to proceed? Really appreciate you taking the time to consider the question. Wish you all the best. Thank you again. Eli. Okay, so I'm not a Google Analytics expert, but I totally have been in your situation many times where I need detailed UTMs, and here is the best information I can give you. Manually written UTMs, to the best of my knowledge, overwrite the auto tagging system in Google Ads. When you have manually written UTMs at the ad level, that means when you put UTM information into the ad template information, it's going to overwrite whatever Google would track. And that's a good thing, because what happens with the auto tagging is it can often attribute search traffic to the wrong thing. It may not show up properly. And you may not have the UTM data to be able to attribute where it came from. It's going to put things in just a larger bucket instead of a specific bucket. So my suggestion is, yes, you should turn off auto tagging, but I don't believe that you should have to, because it's done manually. Now, if you do this, you should be very careful that you are tagging everything, and that your site links and anything else that's going out from the site has those UTMs as well. There's a lot of UTMs. There's a lot of work here. Typically, it involves spreadsheets and collaboration with whoever's tracking your CRMs, and there might be multiple UTM tags that you have to use. One that's understood in analytics, one that's understood in Salesforce, for example, something like that. So different UTMs for different systems, so it can be quite complicated. So if something is breaking, it might be because you don't have the proper UTM tag to go to the right thing. So my guess is it's not the auto tagging that's causing the problem. It's something else in your UTMs that possibly are breaking, or there's something that is dropping off in that funnel. When they originally click and they go through a couple different things, at some point that auto tagging is falling off and breaking on the site. That could be it as well. But I'm diving deeper into analytics and UTM stuff more than I'm comfortable with. There's people that have a much better tech stack, as my Canada buddies like to say. Tech stack. I'm not a tech stack kind of guy. I don't have a very deep tech stack. You've seen my tech stack, and that's about as far as it goes. And I'm going to stop there, because I may have been wrong on that. And if I was wrong, go to YouTube, pull up this episode, which is episode number 376. Pull up episode 376 and leave me a comment and say, Chris, you were wrong. Here's what you should have said to Eli. If you didn't know, I am on YouTube. You can watch the entire episode with my face as I talk. You'll notice that I shaved my beard at my wife's request. She says I look much younger, which apparently is important to her. I don't know. The white beard, I guess, isn't as cool as I thought it was, but I thought I looked much more masculine. Whatever. She's married to me. She didn't have a choice. She's stuck with me. All right. Going to move next to JT. He says, hey, Chris, good to hear you got out of the Republic for a bit to cool off. Yes, thank you. Republic of Texas, I appreciate. He knows his history. Thank you, JT. A question occurred to me after listening to the last episode discussing match type changes. What relevance, in your opinion, will those changes have on the negative side of the equations? He's talking about negative keywords. The opposite of a keyword in Google Ads is a negative keyword. With one of my clients' negative keyword lists approaching 4,000 terms now, how would you feel about nuking these past negative lists and starting to build the suppression list from scratch? Would a campaign maintain its past learning if the suppression list was removed? I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on whether you think that refreshing suppression lists in light of the new match definitions would be beneficial or detrimental to a campaign. And then he notes here, happy you persisted with happy you persisted with being the captaining. I don't think I've ever said that word in my life. With being the captain of a solo podcast. Anxious to see what format and segment experiments you continue to explore. Keep getting out there in the world. Hope to hear your response in an upcoming episode. Thanks, JT. Oh my goodness, I love this. I keep singing praises. I freaking love the questions you guys are sending. There's so much here. Again, this could be a whole episode. So much here that I have to unpack. First of all, absolutely, JT, let me set you straight. You are looking to the left and to the right. Let me point you in the right direction. Match type changes that I discussed are only about keywords, not negative keywords. When I say keywords, that is not the same as negative keywords. When I say negative keywords, I mean negative keywords. When I say keywords, I don't mean keywords and negative keywords. I mean only like keywords, search terms, targeted words, not negative keywords. Everything that I mentioned in episode 374, 375, is it really 3? I'm in the 3s? My gosh, I thought I was in the 2s still. You're right, I am in the 3s. Everything that I said in those episodes about match type do not apply to negative keywords. This is the most beautiful thing about Google Ads. You know how society will come and go, and we'll dig up, something and say, wow, look, they used to write on tablets, right? Oh, wow, they used to use bone to be, to cut their meat with, bone knives or something. You're blown away at how different things are. Now imagine you dug up and there's a toilet there. You're like, oh, look, they still use the same technology that they still used a toilet back then. This is a horrible example. It's a really dumb idea, probably confusing you more. The point is, negative keywords haven't changed. That was such a, if Jason was here, he would be yelling at me. That was such a dumb illustration. I don't know. Okay. Negative keywords have not changed. Since I started Google Ads, the definition of a negative keyword has remained the same. If you put the word boat as a negative keyword, you are not blocking anything except for B-O-A-T. Boat. Not boats, not boating, not ship, nothing. Only the word boat. Broad match, negative keyword boat is boat. Period. So, your assumption that you need, that this has changed things is absolutely not true. There is no match definition changes in negative keywords. Not happening. Google will not change this. I would bet on it. I am betting on it because I run my clients in a certain way that, assuming that there will never be changes in negative keywords, because I take very aggressive stance on my negative keywords using broad match keywords. Specifically, one word keyword. If I want to block boat, I put boat as a broad match keyword. It does not block anything except for boat. A misspelling. If someone types boat, B-A-O-T, it's not going to block it because that is not the word boat. It has to match it word for word, letter for letter. So, the next thing I have to pull apart here, again, you're lost. I'm going to bring you back, JT. There is no past learning when it comes to negative keywords. There is no learning involved. You are taking a knife and cutting off the searches that come from a very specific set of words that you add as a negative keyword. If you add boat, you have now cut off that from the potential of showing up in those auctions. There's no learning here. Google doesn't look at your negative keywords and say, oh, they don't want boat and they don't want ship. Oh, but they do want canoe. Got it. Okay, so what they're probably doing. No, you're humanizing a system that is ones and zeros. This is still ones and zeros. There is not any complexity when it comes to negative keywords. It is either on or off. So I don't think that you should remove this massive list because nothing has changed with negative keywords. I hope I've made that very clear because, JT, you scared me. Please do not associate match type keywords to match type negative keywords. Matthias from Germany writes in and says, hi, Chris, love your podcast and the new format. Apart from the killer no filler, I believe it is also accessible to new listeners more so than before. Well, thank you. I try and hit some. That's what the whole segmentation of it. So I'm very glad to hear that. I still remember listening in the first time in the okay, I got to read this. I'm gonna do it without laughing. I still remember listening in for the first time in the old format and wondering why the hell you two were talking about dress shirts for half an hour. I'm glad I stuck around. Matthias, I'm 100% with you. When I listen to a podcast about business stuff or marketing, I don't really want to hear anything else. Like, I have other hobbies and I may not really care about what these guys think about anything else except for what they're paid to do. So I'm 100% with you. So I'm glad. I'm glad you're over there agreeing with me because that's where I am with you. Killer, no filler. All right, so here we go. 2 questions. Number 1, you mentioned in a recent podcast to spend zero money on brand campaigns. I usually create a brand campaign for every customer. My sole reasoning to do this is to get the cheap conversion data from this campaign to aid the other campaigns. What do you think about this approach? I think it's baloney. I do not think that the positive signals from conversions on brand in any way influence or improve the algorithm or smart signals or whatever you want to call it on your other non-brand campaigns. That is a big step, and I'm taking, maybe some big Google hand will come down and slap me and tell me why, I'm wrong here, but I stand on the fact that if someone's Googling brand, there's very little data to pull from that, right? If you're searching for boat repair and you might search 3 or 4 times before you're like, oh, I need, this kind of boat repair or this kind of thing. You do multiple searches, then you find the ones you're looking for. Google uses that process to help understand why a person would be qualified, unqualified for certain types of searches. That's the learning that has to do. When someone searches for a brand, what do? They just search for the brand. They just search the brand and convert, or search for the brand and go to the website or whatever. I don't believe that there's learning involved here. I think it's a very shallow process. It's just search, click. This is not a learning kind of thing. I'll move on because I don't have any proof for that. That's just strictly opinion. Number 2, I always hear, and you mention it as well, that everyone needs a retargeting campaign. It's supposed to do a great value for the money spent. Can you provide some insight on how to build a successful marketing campaign for B2B lead gen? I haven't managed yet to create a remarketing campaign that I'm satisfied with the performance of. Okay, Matthias, here's the thing. What are you hoping to get out of this retargeting campaign? You're hoping to get, let me fill in the blank, conversions. You're hoping to see conversions, right? You're hoping to see some kind of positive ROAS. I'm here to tell you I don't look for that. I do not look for positive ROAS in a remarketing campaign. Okay? It's not what I care about. I don't care about it. It's not about conversions. It's about awareness. It's about branding. That is what I am interested in. I want awareness, branding. I want to show my name. if I just get impressions and clicks and 0 conversions, I'm happy with that. I don't necessarily want, wait, did I say that right? If I get impressions and clicks with no conversions, that's what I meant to say. I don't know if I said that. I'm happy with that. So, for me, a successful remarketing campaign, B2B, B2C, whatever, is maximum amount of impressions and clicks that I can get for the cheapest amount of money for awareness. It is to help push that name out there, remind people, and in the end, it is an uplift. It's an uplift to what I'm doing everywhere else. I may never see the results of it. I may see no conversions or very few conversions, but in the end, I know that it's helping to uplift. It's the one thing that I can run on Google and absolutely have no guilt about seeing 0 productivity on that as far as conversions or ROAS or anything like that. Okay, guys, I have 2 more questions, and I'm on such a roll. I'm going long here, but I want to knock them out. We've got one from Ireland and one from Canada. So let's go in. Before I do that, I want to remind you, if you haven't, check out Optio. Please. You're going to thank me afterwards. You're going to write me an email, paidsearchpodcast.com. You're going to write me an email telling me, you're right, Chris. Dang it. I've ignored it for years. I finally did it. 2 months free at optio.com/PSP to try this amazing software. You're going to like it. You're going to like it. All right. Patty from Ireland says, love the show in the new format. Second time to ask a question. I hope this is okay. Of course it's okay. Oh, here we are. We are still using Optio. Great software. Patty, perfect timing. Thank you so much for saying that because that fit in. See, there you go. Patty knows it, and he's all the way in Ireland. I manage a client generating leads and currently using max conversions and using offline conversion tracking with the value attributed to each sale. Beautiful. Conversions, qualified leads, converted leads. We lose a lot of attribution because people phone in. And Google's call forward number does not work great with our CRM, and it takes a huge amount of work to cross-reference this, the phone number and the sale and who called and all that. I recently looked into call tracking software. Do you have any insights with these tools? Plus, I'm almost sure I will need to disable Google's forwarding number for these to work. I understand some signal. So anyway, yes. The answer is yes, Patty. You should absolutely use call tracking software. There's a lot of options out there. I'm not going to name any just because, sponsors and stuff like that. So I don't want to say one name and get in trouble. So there's some great ones out there. I think that this is the tool that you need because I have seen many people that utilize these to track the value of a call, which is then attributed back to Google Ads so that you can see a ROAS value, a success value pinned back into Google Ads for that specific phone number that called in. Absolutely recommend it. And a lot of times, some of the good systems out there that has a built-in Google call asset, phone number asset, the call extension. I'm forgetting the real name of it. But it has a built-in system so that it tracks that as well. It replaces that phone number with one of their tracked phone numbers. So absolutely recommend it. That probably will save you a ton of time. And it takes a little bit of work to get it all working, but it could be a lifesaver for you to get that premium ROAS data, that conversion data to know if it goes from conversion to qualified lead to converted lead. Absolutely recommend it. I know, a large percentage of my clients use call tracking software. That's not the name of the program. It's just, in general, they use a call tracking software. And last one goes to Kelly. And here we go. Hi, Chris. I recently discovered your podcast and have been binge listening. Oh, right. You know my voice well then. I've been doing my own Google Ads for close to 10 years now, but there's always so much more to learn. You're right. Welcome to the club, Kelly. What I am currently struggling with is Botox. I am in Canada, and we are not permitted to advertise prescription drugs, and unfortunately, not only does Google not permit me to advertise Botox, but almost every one of my ads is limited just because the website includes the word Botox. Yep, you're absolutely right. I'm frustrated because I see so many big med spas that do advertise it and get away with it. So I'm wondering if there is a workaround. Okay, well, Kelly, it would not be smart for me to tell you like hacks and stuff like that, because that would not be a Google approved kind of thing. So I'm not going to, and plus any hack that I told you is always risky. So the answer is, and I actually just dealt with this with a client. They had what Google was calling an experimental service, something that was not approved by the FDA, which is the Food Drug Administration here in the U.S. So it wasn't approved, so Google calls it an experimental service. And it's like a pain management type of thing, chiropractor kind of stuff, but it was much more, is like injections or something. So I had to deal with this. Because they had it on their site, I had to get them to build a subdomain. So I had them build a subdomain, which is, info.website.com, so that it was completely disassociated with their actual domain and no links to their original website. And they then built something that did not have the specific, let's say Botox, it didn't have the specific word Botox. It didn't have the specific medical thing that is forbidden and causes disapprovals. So what I then am able to do is you can target any keyword. I can target Botox as a keyword. But what you have to do is make sure you do not have that in your ad copy or on your webpage. If that's the case, then you'll be disapproved. But you can advertise it. You can use it as a keyword, I should say, but you just cannot have it as an ad copy or in your landing page or something like that. So that's not really a workaround. That's just the way that you can do, and that's the way it's supposed to be done. You can't specifically say it in your ads, but you can target it. So that's not a hack or anything. That's what I had to do with a client recently. It was very, very specific. Had to do it, and eventually it took me about a week or so to kind of go through different things where I was applying different stuff. But that was, doing certain appeals, appealing this policy and appealing that policy. It ended up working, and it went live actually just today. That's when I finally started getting clicks on it. So, good question, Kelly. Good question, everyone. All over the world. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I am Chris Schaefer. I am a 20-year Google Ads veteran doing this on my own. Never worked for Google. Not employed by Google. Do this out of my home in Texas. If you'd like to speak with me about your campaign, I help people all around the world every single day with live consulting sessions over Zoom. You can sign up for a session on my website at chrisschaefer.com. I also offer management. And if you're not interested, thanks so much for listening. I'll be back to offer more advice next week. Be sure and send in your questions because, boy, you guys are on fire. Wonderful questions. Thank you so much for being with me. I'll catch you next time.